My name is Emily. I work as a freelance graphic designer, and I moved to live alone a few months ago. The story I'm about to tell happened to me last November, and even now, just thinking about it gives me chills. I had always dreamed of having my own little place. After saving up a modest amount, I found a cozy apartment in an old building in a quiet part of Portland. It was close to the cafes I love working in, and the apartment itself was charming, with big windows and creaky wooden floors. It was my first time living without a roommate, and I was really excited to be independent. My family was a bit nervous, especially since I lived on the ground floor, but I reassured them. I had a smart door camera, an electronic lock, and a motion detector in the entryway. A few weeks in, I started noticing that my laptop was getting really slow, and since I rely on it for work, I knew I needed to get a new one. I decided to sell my old one, a 2018 MacBook Pro, on Facebook Marketplace, and I listed it for a fair price, $400. That same day, I got a message from someone named Kyle M. His profile photo looked perfectly normal. Casual smile, polite demeanor. His questions were respectful and made sense. He said he wanted to buy the laptop for his young daughter and even offered $450 if I could give it to him that same evening. Since he was traveling tomorrow, I didn't suspect anything. He was very courteous and didn't try to haggle. He asked if he could come by later that evening just after dinner. I hesitated, but it was still early and my street was well lit, so I agreed. We settled on 7:30 p.m. I got the laptop ready, wiped all my files, and packed it in an old leather laptop bag. 7:30 came. No one. 7:45. Not even a message. At 8:10, I finally got a text. Sorry, traffic's bad. I'll be there in 5. I stood by the door, watching through my smart camera. A few minutes later, I saw a car pull up on the opposite curb. A guy got out, definitely Kyle, but something was off. He wasn't alone. There was another man with him, much taller, wearing a weird old military-style jacket. He was standing behind Kyle, like he was trying not to be seen. They rang the bell. My heart started racing. I opened the door just a crack, the laptop in my hand, and asked, "Are you Kyle?" He smiled coldly and said, "Yeah, that's me." "Can I just come in to see the laptop on a table? I don't like standing outside," I replied. "You can see it from here. The bag's clean and the laptop works perfectly." The guy behind him started moving forward, and before I could say anything, Kyle suddenly reached toward the door like he was trying to push it open. I slammed it shut and locked it. He started knocking, first gently, then harder, and said in a very low voice, "Emily, don't be scared. Just open the door, just for a minute." I didn't respond. I backed away, gripping my phone. I opened the camera app and started a private live stream, just in case. Then I heard something from the back of the apartment. Footsteps on the rear balcony. Someone else? I ran to my bedroom and locked the door. A few seconds later, I heard glass shattering. I was breathing loudly and my hands were shaking. I dialed 911, barely able to get words out. The police arrived in less than 6 minutes, but it felt like an hour. When they came in, they found the kitchen window shattered and muddy footprints on the floor. But the strange part? They didn't find anyone. They checked the footage from my door cam, and sure enough, there were 3 people, not 2. One had been sneaking around the back the whole time. None of them took the laptop, but they had opened my bag, like they were looking for something else. The police later told me there had been several similar robberies in the area that month, all involving people lured through Facebook Marketplace. Since that day, I've never sold anything online again. Even when I order delivery, I don't open the door unless I know who it is. Every part of that story makes me think I was just moments away from having my life changed forever, all because I was trying to sell a used laptop. If you are here for the first time, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell to stay updated with our upcoming scary stories. We need your support. Please share these stories with your friends and family. I grew up in the suburbs of Texas, where American football is the new religion. I was the star quarterback of my high school team, dreaming of scholarships and the NFL. But my father, a retired Marine colonel, saw my passion for sports as a distraction from real men's duties. He insisted that I attend the military academy at West Point and become a soldier, not a player. My dream shattered under the weight of his expectations. On the night I was supposed to sign my scholarship for the University of Oklahoma, our final argument erupted. You'll be a soldier or nothing. He tore up the university contract in front of me, and that was the moment everything changed. I abandoned my dream and decided to join the army instead of going to college, disguised in camouflage as someone else, and so began a new chapter of my life. During 5 years in Iraq, I lost my foot, but I came back with a Medal of Honor. I felt I lost part of myself in the war, but I thought I could reclaim the rest of my life by working for the FBI. I specialized in cybercrimes, chasing hackers who stole money from retired soldiers. I was searching for another meaning in the war, something that would restore my identity and make me believe I was doing something right. In October 2023, we managed to capture Phoenix, the leader of a cyber gang targeting U.S. military bases. I thought I had saved the world from real evil. But a week after his capture, my wife, Emma, disappeared from the parking lot of a shopping center. I didn't realize that this was the beginning of a much more terrifying confrontation. Surveillance cameras showed a white car resembling one I had stopped in Iraq, and when I received the first message, everything felt wrong. It was a live stream on Twitch, showing Emma tied to a chair in front of a burning American flag, and a distorted voice echoed through the screen. "Play with me, hero. One match will determine her fate." Everything felt like a game, but this time, life was the stake. I had no choice but to play a battle royale video game against unknown opponents in the virtual world. With every loss, the electricity would cut off in Emma's room, and every second wasted made me feel helpless. After hours of playing, I discovered that Phoenix was just a front. The mastermind behind it all was my own father, who had chosen to reshape my life entirely, using my memories and pain from Iraq as a weapon. In the secret hideout beneath our old farm, I uncovered things I couldn't have imagined. A room full of screens displaying my military training, messages from Iraq, even recordings of our arguments. The army made you a machine, but games show who you really are, he said quietly, as Emma suffocated behind bulletproof glass. Everything was meticulously arranged, every step calculated, every move watched. My father had planned this for a long time, to make me someone else. In the end, I had to use my wits in the game against his military strategy. When I managed to free Emma, I had overcome the worst moment of my life. But the ending was horrifying. I found my father dead, shot in the chest. The phone was in my hand, with his last message on the screen, Now you're the full soldier. Today I live in Austin, where I run a workshop repairing old gaming consoles. Sometimes, when I see a teenager practicing on Madden NFL, I feel something strange. In that moment, I tell them, the perfect pass isn't the one that wins the game, but the one that prevents war. The sound of cockroaches was the only music in my old car as I headed to the abandoned family farm in Lubbock, Texas. I hadn't been back here since I left to join the military 10 years ago. But the letter from my mom I found in my desk drawer this morning made my bones tremble. He comes back every night, asking you to finish the game. My dad was a high school football coach before he turned into an extremist preacher. In my childhood, he used to wake me up at 3 a.m. for special training on the field. But these weren't ordinary drills. We played with balls covered in the skin of butchered animals, and one night I saw him bury a dead black dog under the victory gate. Now, after his sudden death from a heart attack, players from my old team began disappearing one by one. First, Jacob. He was found posted on an oak tree in front of the school field, his body wrapped in team gear, with a ball jammed in his mouth. Then, Laura, found inside the weapons locker on the field, her eyes carved with the numbers 13 and 14 on her forehead. The local police believe it's just suicides, but I know better. As I approached the farm gate at night, I heard a sharp whistle, like a game starting. The old field was lit with eerie blue lights, and in the center, I saw a tall figure in training gear, standing with its back to me. "Play with me, son. The last round." His voice was like a broken radio. I kicked the ball toward him as we used to, but when he picked it up, it turned into a goat skull. The lights suddenly went out, and the ground rose like the field had turned into hell. In the north corner, where he used to bury the dogs, I found my teammates' bodies, arranged like a team lineup. Their faces were locked with barbed wire, and their eyes wide open on pillows of dry grass. Above each body, a number from our last game before I left town. My mom later told me the secret. Every victory we achieved on the field was a gift to the demons my father worshipped. My body was meant to be the final vessel, but my escape to the military ruined his plan. Now, the thirsty spirits want to complete the ritual. On the 7th night, I returned to the field wearing my old team gear. The blue lights flashed, and cheers echoed from the empty bleachers. The ball at my feet now felt as heavy as a mountain, but I know the new rules. Either score a goal against them, or become the gate. The final touch was like a knife strike to my heart. When I fell to the ground, I saw my father's shadow raise his hand in victory. The stands filled with the ghosts of the missing players, clapping slowly. Now, every night, when the clock strikes 3:07 a.m., I hear the whistle to start, and the field is waiting. The person who finds comfort in the quiet of the night. There's something about that quiet that feels peaceful, as if the world slows down just enough for you to catch your breath and gather your thoughts. The silence is as comforting as a warm blanket wrapping around you. But that night I spent at my aunt's house. That was the night everything changed for me. It's strange how something so small can shatter the peace I had always relied on. I was at my aunt's house, that old house on the edge of town. It was the kind of house you wouldn't think much of from the outside, but once you stepped inside, it felt as though time had forgotten it. She had gone out of town for the weekend, leaving me there alone. I had visited this house many times before, and I always had a strange feeling about it, as if it carried a certain mood or presence, but I didn't let it bother me. The house creaked in the usual places, and there was always the sound of the floorboard groaning, as if it held secrets, but that was just something natural in old houses, nothing to be concerned about, right? That night, everything started off as usual. I made some popcorn, settled on the couch, and put on a movie. The rain began to fall around 8 p.m., the kind of rain that taps on the windows with a rhythm that makes you want to curl up under a blanket and not move for hours. By 10 p.m., the wind began to howl, howling through the trees outside the house like a wild animal. The power had gone out an hour before that, leaving the house in darkness, except for the candlelight I had placed on the coffee table. It wasn't ideal, but it was comforting in its own way, and I didn't mind. There's something about the stillness of a storm that makes everything feel more intimate, more connected. The house was mostly quiet, with the occasional creak from the old beams or the sound of rain tapping against the roof. Everything was still. I had turned off the movie and stretched out on the couch when I heard it, a faint thud. My heart raced, and I stood frozen for a moment. All I could hear was the sound of my breathing. I waited. Nothing. The silence stretched out, but there was that unsettling feeling in my stomach, as if something wasn't quite right. Maybe the house was settling, or maybe there was an animal outside, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something had happened. My mind raced through possibilities, and suddenly I began to imagine all sorts of things, but nothing seemed to make sense. So I told myself to calm down. I tried to ignore it, picked up a book and tried to focus on the words, but my mind kept drifting back to that sound. Did I really hear it? Or was I imagining it? The more I thought about it, the heavier the silence seemed, as if the air itself was holding its breath. Then it happened again, this time louder. It was a distinct knock, not just a thud, but a tap on the door, as if someone were standing just a few steps away. I sucked in a breath, standing quickly, my heart pounding in my throat. I walked slowly toward the front door, feeling as though my feet were made of lead. There was no one there, just the dark, empty yard, the rain beginning to taper off, and the wind still whispering through the trees. I stood there for a moment, staring out into the night, wondering if my mind was playing tricks on me. I checked the locks, trying to convince myself that nothing was wrong. Maybe it was just the wind. But when I turned around, I saw something that made my hair stand on end. There was a shadow, just outside the window, a shape darker than the night moving. I blinked, convinced it was just my imagination, but when I looked again, the shadow moved as if something or someone was standing there, watching me. But as time passed, the sound became clearer, and it was becoming more unsettling. At first, I thought it was just the usual sounds of the house, or maybe the wind banging against the windows. But over the days, the sound became more consistent, as though something was trying to get my attention. I started to notice that every time I turned off the lights and went to bed, this faint tapping would begin. It wasn't loud or bothersome at first, but it was constant, and at the same time, every night after I turned off the lights, the sound would come from my window. I tried to ignore it at first, telling myself it was just the normal creaks of the house, maybe from things contracting or expanding inside. But that night, the sound started to change. It became more insistent, more distinct. I was sure I hadn't been mistaken this time, There was something tapping on my window. At first it was light, then it started to grow louder, as if someone was knocking on the glass, more rapidly. I paused for a moment, trying to listen carefully. There was a gap between the sound and the reality of what was happening, and the sound grew so close, it made me uneasy. My heart jumped when I realized it wasn't just a sound from outside or some environmental effect. It was something very real.